Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
And today we're covering the anime Tokyo Ghoul RE.
Yes, and just like the original manga, the anime got a sequel adaptation as well. Now, while the majority of the story is one-to-one with the manga, it makes a story of its own towards the end, actually taking some elements from the manga and some that aren't, leading to a wild conclusion. But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and all the pause videos.
And thank you so much for joining us today, subscribing, sharing our videos, and so much more. We really appreciate you so much, your specials. So this is a sequel to Tokyo Ghoul, the original manga that ran from September of 2011 to September of 2014 with 14 volumes. RE is the name of the sequel, and it ran from December of 2014 to July of 2018 with 16 volumes.
Okay.
And in the US, it's licensed by Viz Media. And it actually is set 2 years after the end of the original Tokyo Ghoul series, introducing a new set of characters that were not met in Tokyo Ghoul. In case you're wondering, I've done past, present, and future on my channel, but we have yet to review the Tokyo Ghoul manga. The anime I did not care for. The original Tokyo Ghoul anime RE is so much better, so much better.
Right, and it seems like adapting Tokyo Ghoul to anime has been sort of a issue for a while. It looks like RE is so far the most accurate thing they've done for this franchise. The anime seems to take a whole divergence and tries to make it as horrific and gory as possible, and clearly people didn't like it. And you had a sequel OVA mini-series that is not canon to the manga, only follows the anime, and then it says it's so lackluster you could ignore it, which is real bad. And then they also had 2 live action movies that tried to cover only 2 arcs of the manga.
Really bad.
Very poorly.
Ideas. Very bad ideas.
So,
very bad.
So it looks like RE is the only thing they've done where it's majority stuck to the events of the manga.
So, again, it's based on Sui Ishiri's mangas, and this series has 24 episodes. It originally aired from April to December of 2018. What I really like about it is even watching it now, it's still fantastic. You're not looking at it going, oh boy, you can tell this is done a while ago. The animation still looks good. I know animation has increased dramatically for anime, but this still looks good. And the fight scenes are fantastic. The motion is fluid. The characters all look unique and different. And they haven't been just cookie cutter looking the same, like sometimes you see that happen where the characters look different in a manga, and then when it gets adapted, they don't put that much effort into making the characters look unique. They just cut and paste. And unfortunately in the West, DC was very guilty of doing that.
Yeah,
with a lot of its movies. So again, it's set 2 years after the ending of the original Tokyo Ghoul series, and now Ken Kaneki has a new identity, Heisei Sasuke. He lost his memory after the end of the first manga. I won't say the series because I didn't finish that series, where he was almost beaten to death. And so he's now actually a member of the CCG that works to eradicate ghouls. And he's a half ghoul himself. If you haven't read the first one, after he's attacked by a ghoul Risa, and then the doctor does surgery and gives him her liver and some of the body parts so that he doesn't die.
Right. And he ends up getting the memory back later on, but it's a little while. You have to get used to this new setting, these new characters and stuff, and make sure you're not reading the wrong story. And seeing how, I guess, the other half of this world works, where you already get to see the ghoul world, so you get to see how the CCG works in tandem with that, and how they deal with the ghouls that are more violent and want to eat people. Because they've shown already there are some ghouls that don't want to eat people and just wish to live regularly or just live with humans. And then these people take care of the ones that are just out to just eat, and it's like you need a break.
So now he's a member of the Quinks squad, and you get introduced to the character Tonobayashi, Yuri, Shizuru, and some of the other heads of the CCG. You also meet Arima again. You get to see him again. Marude. There's lots of people that weren't in the first series. You get to meet some new villains in here as well, and there are some. And then you find out in this series that some of the investigators, when they're attacked by ghouls, and you think they're dead, and I'm going to say spoilers here.
Yep,
if you haven't read it, because they end up being assimilated, like what happened with, I'm just going to call them High right now, with High, and they end up being assimilated and made half ghoul, half humans, and then they disappear from the human world. And then you find out later on they're still alive because they've experimented on them. And what they're trying to do is to get a breed of halfers who are all like High or Kaneki, just as powerful as him.
Right, and replicated, yeah.
Right, easily assimilated. That's what they want. So they keep on experimenting also with the CCG members, especially the younger ones that come in, the ones that are like 17 and 18. Those are the ones they prefer to experiment on. They do it on some of the older ones, but you see that most of them are younger.
Right.
And then when they do that, they're able to use the different weapons the same way the ghouls are. And as you mentioned, the goal is to eradicate the ones who are causing all of the chaos in the city. They got 24 wards, or 23 wards. And some of the wars are worse than the others. Some of them are masquerading as humans during the daytime. Antieku, the coffee shop from Tokyo Ghoul, it's around again. They rebuilt it. It's around, even though the Nishimura was taken out. So he still ends up going to Antieku with some of the other members of his squad. And he still falls for Tuka, even not knowing who she is. That's the one he still falls for.
Right.
And no one in there tells him, we know who you are, you're not this person, you're Ken Kaneki. They stay quiet. They're just happy to see him and know he's alive because they thought he was dead.
Right.
Then you bring along the gourmet, Tsukishima, who decides, oh, I need to tell you who you are.
No, and then everything goes downhill from there. And you actually did explain a little bit before on why he's so intent on...
Tsukiyama, I keep calling Tsukishima, Tsukiyama.
He was so intent on actually eating him. I guess from what he was in the other series as well, he wants to eat him, right?
He's a one-eyed ghoul.
Right.
So he has a different taste, he assumes, since he's a halfer. And he's a one-eye, which is a special ghoul. And yes, he's called the gourmet because he picks and chooses what he's going to eat. And he only wants the finest. I'm sorry, this is the character in there.
It's like, why? And he becomes a pain for these people for, I think, a majority of the story. And it's so weird when they did it in the movie, the live action movie. They kind of sped up so many events that they ended up using stuff from Tokyo Ghoul and RE at the same time because they wanted his entire story in one movie and thought they could just get his entire story done in 1 or 2 days. But in here, it was over the course of years. And seeing how deep his psychoticness was, when you read it, there's no way you could do all of this in one go unless you just cut out everything, because there was slight reasonings why he was like this. You saw development of his mental state and how he just kind of spiraled like this, and as you said, why he's so intent on eating him and just not leaving it alone. And it's all important, and it doesn't even feel like it's filler or anything. You're actually getting a full story.
I think what's interesting about that, now you brought it up, is that he ends up being an ally to High or Kaneki later. He just does what he tells us.
Mm-hmm.
And he uses the wealth of his family to help them out. So that was a pretty interesting turn that I didn't see coming. Then another thing that's really good about this is you see how these new characters in this book develop over the course of the anime as well as the manga. Plays 2 years after. And then later on there's a 6-year time jump. So you do find out at the end what happens to everyone in the manga.
Right.
But not in the anime.
Right.
In the anime, they only tell you what happened with Kaneki and Tuka. And they give you a little detail of that. And you see a happy ending. But you don't find out what happens to the rest of the squad and his friends unless you read the manga. I think that part really was crappy.
Yeah, it seems like they just kind of ran out of time and said, okay, let's just speed this up, show who was important, their endings, and then end the show.
You also, during the anime, I can tell you that for the first half of the anime, so 12 episodes, probably to 15, it almost ran one-to-one with the manga. It was almost exactly 100% like the manga. But I should have known with 24 episodes, it was going to stop taking from the manga. But up until that point, it's nearly one-to-one. Then after that point, it veers off. It starts taking some events from the manga and covering them. And then some events that are covered, they've moved up and put in a different sequence than what happened in the manga.
Right.
And then some things in the manga that really give you more detail and information you want to know aren't included in the anime, and you're left wondering, well, why did this happen? Or this doesn't make sense. I'm seeing this happen, but this doesn't follow. Why?
Yeah, and it happens a bit there, like you said, towards the end. And it sounds like maybe they plan for this to go on a little longer, even get a second season, but they thought they could maybe squish it all into one, because the original Tokyo Ghoul anime had 2 seasons and an OVA miniseries that really shouldn't have happened. And then you get to RE, it has 1 season only, I guess, because they said it was a sequel series and didn't need 2 seasons. But it's kind of clear that either it was a longer series, like a few more episodes, or just give it a second season altogether, it probably would have been able to adapt more of the things without having to rush them, speed up events, or take out a couple things. It probably could have stayed one-to-one if they had done that. And you don't know why they chose to do this by order of company, or it was miscalculation, they had to rush things, or something happened, because it feels a little weird that they got it right all the way up until over halfway, and then suddenly it starts veering or changing things. It gets to the end, like, okay, here's how this one ends, the end, and it just kind of just shuts down after that.
I really enjoyed not only reading the manga, but I really enjoyed the anime. As you mentioned in the beginning, the first series was so bloody and so violent that I quit watching it. And it moved too fast, and it changed too many elements of the story. I wasn't enjoying it.
Right.
And so I stopped. I couldn't take it anymore. Austin Tyndall's fantastic as Kaneki, Sasaki, whichever one you want to call him. He's fantastic. They've got a great voice cast for RE. It's absolutely wonderful. That's another thing that makes it really enjoyable. The voice cast is superb.
Yeah.
And these characters seem real and fleshed out. Again, over halfway through, you're getting a wonderful adaptation of the manga, and it's so enjoyable. You get to find out what happens to some of the ghouls that were in the first series that were wreaking havoc.
Right.
Some of them disappearing. You really get to see a different side of Kaneki as High. And this is another part of his personality that you're getting to see as him being a whole nother character.
Right.
And then you mentioned a part that you liked where toward the end they showed all the different versions of Kaneki there have been
right.
talking to each other, which really was a great scene.
Right. And regardless of what's happening to the character, it's like this is how also his thought process is going. Like they tell you they're brainstorming or something. It looks like he's having a meeting with the different versions of himself about the series and come up with a plan or how to handle a situation or something. And they all act as one being, but with different opinions. So I thought that was a really interesting idea, both in the manga and the anime. And I do like they still managed to keep a little humor in it too. While it's not all throughout the series this time, they have little jokes like at the end, like little bonus stuff, and they have the little bits of humor where they say these smart A comments. And one thing, unfortunately, I know they couldn't add into the anime, but it was funny as heck when I read, is that when a chapter ended and it looked like some characters were going to be taken out and the city was getting more and more in stride. They put the name of the last chapter of a volume and it just said chapter number whatever, A. And you wonder why they call A. And the thing ends with just someone yelling, ah! And then the manga's over. And it's like, who did this? It just ends with someone screaming. It's like this terror. And then it ends like everything went wrong and just in the book screaming.
Oh my gosh. They didn't put that in there. It would have been fun.
Right.
There are some great characters in here. One of my favorites is actually Yuri, Kuki Yuri. He actually starts off the anime itself in the first episode. And you see his development series. He starts off young at 17. He's kind of cocky. He really wants to be advanced. Mm-hmm. His dad was CCG. And he really wants to excel like he did. And he's kind of just foregone the rest of his life. And he's focused on nothing but being a special investigator.
Right.
And you get to see him mature. He goes from 17 to 29 by the end of the series. And you get to see him coming into being the person he was supposed to be. You see him grow. You see him learn that he can't do all this on his own. He has to depend on his team. He becomes friends with his team. His team becomes his family. He ends up getting promoted as the story goes on. Mm-hmm. His dedication and hard work are rewarded in this series. It isn't in a lot of other manga. And at first when you meet him, you think something's wrong because he says all this stuff in his mind that is the opposite of what he's saying out loud. Mm. And he's even got this weirdo that's one of the upper heads of the CCG that's crushing on him. This guy is a weirdo and a pervert.
Right.
And he knows it and he says, I'm going to let him keep liking and flirting with me so I can get my promotion. But that's never going to happen, and it doesn't. And he's risen to the top of the ranks, and he's earned his way there. And that's the character that stuck out for me. Mm-hmm. One, because of the progression. Two, because how you see him have character growth.
Right.
Three, he's pretty baddie. He really is. Mm-hmm. And four, he's cute. Mm-hmm. But Tonebayashi is crazy. She looks like she's a little kid, but by the end, she's 29.
Oh my God.
She's an adult. And she acts like she's 5. You have Shirazu, who I liked, and unfortunately he gets taken out. But he was good as a character also. He looks like, to me, a R.E. Kirishima. That's all I thought of when I saw him. You learn more about the Washu family and how evil they are. There's just so much going on here that is well written and handled. Again, halfway through the anime.
Right.
So what I recommend is watch the anime, absolutely. Know that at the end you're not going to get the canonical ending in the order it happens, but the end is canonical. And read the manga. The manga is fantastic. It is worth your taking the time to read. And keep an eye out because Rascal's going to be joining me on my channel to review the manga at the end of this month.
Right.
Where we can tell you more about details that are not included in the anime itself.
Right. And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates, spooky videos for anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Yes, if you've watched Tokyo Ghoul RE, let us know in the comments. Did you see it when it originally aired? Are you watching it later like we did? Have you read the manga? Let us know. If you haven't seen it, it's available on Crunchyroll and Hulu. And it's available dubbed and subbed. Watch the dub. The dub's superior to me. Mm-hmm. If you like the sub, fantastic. But
Right.
the dub for me is the way to go. And thank you so much for subscribing, sharing our videos, commenting, and so much more. As always,
You are special. Thank you so much for watching Rascal Entertainment.
And Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.
Don't look! Don't look! Don't look! Don't look! I hear him, always whispering in my ear. I think he's the old me.